Joining me now to talk more about this impact on air travel, aviation safety, and national airspace system expert, Philip Mann. Philip, it's great to see you again. So, really serious topic here. Air traffic controllers are going to miss their first paychecks next week due to this shutdown. The last government shutdown, federal workers at our airports increasingly missed work. The FAA had to limit some flights at major airports. We're already seeing staffing shortages. We're seeing flight delays, cancellations. What is your prediction as this shutdown continues? And really, we're not seeing any effort or the appearance of an effort that it's going to end.
Yeah, I kind of think that some of the trending, some of the stuff that Secretary Duffy mentioned during his speech is probably going to start having effects. During the 2018-2019 shutdown, air traffic controllers were still just as shorthanded. They were still suffering a lot of stuff. And you started seeing people that were basically, they're calling out sick. Now, I don't want to say they're doing anything nefarious and just calling out sick to call out sick, but the thing is air traffic controllers, they have a duty to basically not be at work or to call out for sick if they're not rested enough to do their job effectively. It's not a kind of job where you can miss a night of sleep or stay up all night worrying about your mortgage and then go into work and and just hide in the back and be effective. It's a job where you have to show up sharp, you have to show up rested, and in the combination of the 60-hour work weeks and the rotating shifts, the controllers were kind of short on rest periods anyway, and now I've got to worry about my mortgage. Now maybe I've got to pick up some extra dollars running DoorDash or something. Now they're eating into those rest periods, and I think probably some of the controllers and some of the controllers' families are staying up later than they should, and they're probably calling in sick in no small part just because they're not rested enough to be safe. And to be clear, everything we're seeing as far as the flight delays and everything is a safety mechanism.
Right.
We run the FAA or run the National Airspace System at a certain capacity. We run it at a safe capacity. And if that safety begins to be compromised because we don't have enough controllers or the equipment's not working the way it's supposed to, then we reduce the aircraft that are in the air to keep the same level of safety. And I expect that we'll probably start seeing fewer and fewer airplanes, fewer and fewer flights, all to preserve that safety margin while the controllers are busy worrying about where their next mortgage payment's going to come from.
Yeah, so let's talk about also, that what we heard from Secretary Duffy during Natasha's report there, that, people at the training facility are bailing because they don't, they're rethinking the idea of taking a job or training, this extensive training for a job where there could be another shutdown. They could potentially not be paid. What is the solution?
Well, there's a few solutions, and I think it's really important to remember, and I hate to invoke Reagan 2 segments in a row, but we can track this air traffic control shortage clear back to August 5th, 1981, when Reagan fired 11,000 air traffic controllers, and we've never made that gap up. The academy and the system has recognized for several decades now that the academy process itself is part of the bandwidth problem. You can only train so many people per year. And expanding things such as the enhanced CTI program that pushes some of that air traffic training out to universities like Embry-Riddle, University of Oklahoma, that is one way to increase that bandwidth. But in respect to with what's going on with the shutdown, I think that the lawmakers probably need to look at protecting the funding for these emergency functions. I was working for the agency during the 2018-2019 shutdown, and I was wondering where my paycheck was coming from. And it wasn't until after that was over that we were even guaranteed back pay. So I think that locking that stuff in, because a lot of the people that are coming in a control workforce now, as I said, there's some of them are the best and the brightest. They're really smart, really qualified, really skilled, people with a lot of potential. A lot of them are younger. A lot of them have a degree in IT or something like that, and they've decided they want to give this air traffic thing a go. Well, if they're being, if they're into the training part of the job and they're being told that that one huge selling point, that good benefit, stable income that you have from a federal job just isn't really there, then they're rethinking their professional choices, they're rethinking their career choices, and we need to protect that, that security in the job, especially for the emergency jobs that are going to have to work anyway. We need to protect the paychecks and make sure that the folks who come in for the idea of serving the public, serving that air, serving the flying public, keeping people safe, that they, when they signed up for this job that was this basically, guaranteed income, stable benefits, and they did that at the expense of all the other options they may have had, that we protect that for them so we can keep them there and not have them any more stressed out than they need to be in an already stressful occupation.
Absolutely. All right. I'd like to listen to some of what the White House press secretary said yesterday after another failed vote in the Senate.
The Airline Pilots Association International, which represents more than 80,000 pilots, is sounding the alarm as well. They said this shutdown is undermining our system's safety. Resources are stretched thin, negotiations are delayed, and strain grows daily. With the Thanksgiving holiday approaching, we are nearing the busiest travel period of the entire year, when millions of Americans will go to airports to spend time with their loved ones.
All right, Philip. So I want to talk about this failed bill. It would have at least temporarily provided checks for active duty military members and other essential federal employees who are required to show up for work during the shutdown. Those essential employees include air traffic controllers. The Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, is blasting the Republicans, saying that this bill was really a ruse that would give the White House budget director broad authority to just pick and choose which federal departments and agencies to reopen, which to keep closed. My question for you, and all of this, it still failed. At what point will these, air traffic controller shortages, these flight delays, cancellations, travel disruptions ramp up the pressure on lawmakers to end the shutdown?
Hopefully it'll happen before something serious, something real major happens before we get back to another January. But I suspect that when the economic impact is high enough, that's when the people who have the ears of the legislators, who have the ears of the president, have the can speak to the cabinet directly, that kind of thing. I suspect that's when they will get really super serious about it. When the people that are the airlines, the airline associations that are running the economy through the airspace sector, once they're uncomfortable enough or they're experiencing enough pain that they're passing it on to the legislators and they're passing it on to the constituent groups, then I expect we'll see some serious movement in it. But I'm not confident that between now and then, as long as the argument is not about air traffic and it's about something else, and they're just saying, hey, look, it's affecting air traffic, I'm not confident that we're going to see any big movement on that, because the last shutdown happened like 3 days before Christmas. So having a shutdown over a holiday is getting to be, unfortunately, kind of old hat.
All right. Certainly not what we want to hear, but that doesn't mean it's not the truth. All right, Philip Mann, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.